Alhamdulillah, we're back now after almost a month break. But this is the class I've been waiting to really teach. And in order to even start this class, I had to give you guys this whole preamble, which I hope you will realize as we go through why it's significant and important, right? So we talked about, remember, we talked about knowledge, we talked about, the sources and authenticity of the sources, and the how do you understand things, the meanings. Then we went into Sunnah, that everything is Sunnah, our Deen is Sunnah, right? It comes from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Quran comes from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We talked about Hujjiyat Sunnah, the importance of Sunnah, why we need the sciences to begin with. The purpose of the science is not the science itself, but to derive our deen from the sciences, right? So that we understood that as well. We talked about seerah a little bit, so we can kind of relate to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And we understood, some of the early turmoil, which is going to be important now in the Hadith sciences, which really, you would say, catapulted the Hadith sciences into what it is today. That whole thing that I talked about, the fitna, that is the root of the development of the Hadith sciences. If you read Muqaddimah of Sahih Muslim, you will see that Imam Muslim, he talks about why he wrote this book, why he wrote the book, and why he was so passionate about the authenticity of the Sunnah, right? So there's so many evidences in there, which I'm not going to go over all of that right now. That's why I gave it to you for reading, so you can ask me questions. You'll see famous statements by Ibn Sirin and those kinds of things in there, but we will get to that inshallah right now. But let me now begin with something. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. So, in one of my hadith classes, my teacher, Sheikh Yasir Qadi, right? He came in, he started with, and he said, and he told me a hadith that he said that his teacher, Sheikh Mubarak Puri, told him that when he started to learn hadith, his teacher told him that his teacher, when he started to study hadith, his teacher told him that his teacher told him that his teacher told him. 24 people in the middle, there's Imam al-Shawkani, the Yemeni, the leader, Imam al-Shawkani of Yemen. He 1839 is when he passed away, rahimahullah. And then all the way then to Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, Hafidh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. I've mentioned his name several times in my lessons. I hope you're familiar with this name now, Ibn Hajar, okay? That he said that Ibn Hajar, and then Ibn Hajar heard from so-and-so and so-and-so, his teachers, all the way to, now we get to Sufyan ibn Uyayna. He was the giant of the tabi'in. Remember the third generation tabi'in, who passed away in 198 Hijrah. 198 Hijrah. Almost 100 and, you can say, 90 years after Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's passing. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, tabi'i, giant. Who is Sufyan ibn Uyayna? We'll talk about that. Who was told by Amr ibn Dinar, okay, who was a tabi'i who passed away in 126 Hijrah, who heard from Abu Qabus. You can see this is big enough, right? Who heard from Abu Qabus, who heard from the Sahabi Abdullah bin Amr bin al-As. He is a Sahabi who heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, and whatever here is written is basically the same thing that I just said, that Yasir Qadi told me that his teacher, sorry, not Sheikh Mubarak Puri, Sheikh al-Rahman al-A'zami was his teacher from Medina University, who was taught by his teacher, so on and so forth, up to Sufyan ibn Uyayna, then Amr bin Dinar, who heard from Abu Qabus, who heard from Abdullah bin Amr bin As, who was the Sahabi, who said, Qala, who said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhumur Rahman. Okay? Irhamu man fil ard yarhamukum man fis sama. Intaha. Okay, this is the end of the hadith. It says Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam allegedly said in this hadith, Assalamu alaikum, that ar-rahimun, who are the rahimun? Those who show mercy. Okay, ar-rahimun yarhamuhumur rahman. That those who show mercy, ar-Rahman shows mercy to them. Okay, irhamu man fil ard. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is commanding, irhamu man fil ard, show mercy to who's on earth, yarhamukum man fis sama. The one who is in the sky is going to show mercy on you. Okay. What I just showed you this right now is something called al-Musalsal bi-al-awlawiyyah. Okay, we will understand this, what this is, but this is a chain hadith that is often used as a teaching aid and in inductory age. It's called a musalsal. You see, like I just narrated to you what my sheikh narrated to me, whose sheikh narrated to me, and I, even though I don't have a ijaza for this, I hope you felt that you first time in your life probably connected directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is why I did what I just did. Did you see what happened just now? Do you see the power? We just got connected to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. So let's now understand everything about what we just did, okay? And who are these people and what. So hadith. We will talk about what exactly hadith is, but right now I'm going to give you a preview, inshallah. So first now let's understand Takhrij. Where do you find this hadith? How did I find this hadith? Okay, my teacher narrated to me. Is it collected in some books? Okay, so as a beginner student, what are you going to do? What is the first thing you're going to do if I ask you to look up this hadith? You're going to start in the books, the 6 books that you know. Okay, they're called Kitab al-Sitta, the 6 books that you know. And if you don't know what they are, it's okay. Don't worry, we will learn, inshallah. Okay, I'm just giving you a flyby right now. So, and if you want me to slow down, please tell me to slow down. Okay. So, this is not meant to be a teaching. This is meant to create an impact and confound you a little bit. Okay, inshallah. So if I ask you to find this hadith, you look it up in the 6 books. You'll find this in the 6 books. You will find it in 2 of the 6 books. You will find this in Tirmidhi and Sunan al-Tirmidhi and Sunan Abi Dawud. Okay, you'll find it in those. Why don't you find it in Bukhari and Muslim? Why? Why don't you find it? Okay, then then if you're a little more curious, you have a little bit more knowledge, you're gonna go, okay, they're not just 6 books, there's actually many books. Okay, so there are 14, let's say, or more source books. What are source books? Is Riyadh al-Salihin in one of the source books? No, it's not. Why is it not a source book? So we'll understand what that means. So in the other beyond the 6 books, there's other books like Musnad Imam Ahmad. Okay, Musnad Imam Ahmad, you can find that in there. You can find it in, and we will talk about that more. We will find it in more books. Okay. Okay. So now, let's understand who Sufyan ibn Uyayna is. Okay, just very quickly. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, I told you he's one of the In the Tabi'een, he is one of the top scholars who taught many students. Many students. One of his students was whom? Imam ibn Hanbal. He was the teacher of Imam ibn Hanbal. And he was the teacher of Imam Bukhari, Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Okay, you see the significance of Sufyan ibn Uyayna? He was the teacher of Imam al-Bukhari. Okay, great. So you can look up Sufyan ibn Uyayna. For example, I made this handy link to the scholars database that you can learn everything about, not everything, but briefly about Sufyan ibn Uyayna. You can see all his, this is not meant for you to read, okay? I'm just giving you a preview. All of his students are here, all of his teachers are here. What was his date of passing? He was 196, 198 Hijrah, etc. He was born in Kufa. He 107. So he was in Kufa. Okay, all right. Then he heard from Amr ibn Dinar. Who is Amr ibn Dinar? We can look up Amr ibn Dinar. Then who heard from Abu Qabus, and all these people. Okay. Then we can look at the narration found in. Remember, I told you this. He was the teacher of Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Okay, all right. So Ahmad ibn Hanbal since he was a teacher. So let's look at the chain really quickly. Okay, so if I look at, for example, I told you that this is found in, let's say, look at Tirmidhi. Okay, so in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, I'm looking at it right now. You guys can see, maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so you can see that Imam Tirmidhi, his teacher was Ibn Abi Umar. Okay, so he said that Ibn Abi Umar told me, that Sufyan ibn Uyayna told me, that Amr bin Dinar told me, that Abi Qabus told me, that Abdullah bin Amr ibn al-As told me, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Okay, as you can see, this is a little bit of a longer hadith. It's not the exact chain. This is not the exact chain what I just quoted. That chain, now you all are connected to that chain that I just quoted. Okay, this is the chain found in Tirmidhi. Okay, then if you look at Musnad Ahmad, and unfortunately it's not available very broadly at all, so I have to kind of show it to you. So I'm just going to show you what I do, just to kind of give you a taste, okay? So I will say, I'll find Musnad Ahmad. Here it is, Musnad Ahmad. Okay, I'm going to use this version because it has nice, good footnotes. Okay, this is by Sheikh Arnaout. You'll understand who he is later on. He's one of the current scholars. You know Sheikh Arnaout. Okay, so this is a book written by him. So I'm going to do a find in it, and I'm going to say Ar-Rahimun. That should be enough. There's not a lot of hadith that with this wording. So right here, okay. So it's in Musnad Ahmad. Remember I told you Imam Ahmad's teacher is whom? Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Guess what the hadith starts with? Look what it says. Haddathana Sufyan. Sufyan told us. Look at the respect. Told us. Because he was in class. There were other students too. So he's saying, Haddathana Sufyan. You understand? So beautiful. There's so much beauty in all of this. Okay. So, Haddathana Sufyan, who was told by Amr bin Dinar, who was told by Abu Qabus. Same chain. Do you see the same chain? But it's Imam Ahmad capturing it. Okay, you understand Takhrij now? Takhrij. How do people collect hadith? These are sources. Did you see? There, Imam Tirmidhi, his direct teacher is saying that I was told by Sufyan ibn Uyayna. So Sufyan ibn Uyayna is teaching all these people, and this hadith is spreading. You understand? Are you getting a taste? Let me know if this is making sense. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so we just looked at Musnad Ahmad. Okay, great. Now, Um, where else is this hadith found? Okay, a lot of people would just stop here. People won't even go to Musnad Ahmad because they're going to find it in the 6 books. They're going to stop, right? But if you're an advanced student of knowledge, you want to understand. You want to get to the root of this hadith, and there's a purpose behind it. Why are you looking at the Takhrij? Where all is it narrated? I can do many different kinds of searches and show you different things, but I don't want to confuse you right now. The point I'm trying to make is something different. Now, this hadith is also captured in other books. Okay, it is in is Musnad Humaydi. Who's Humaydi? Who's Humaydi? Does anybody know?
I never heard of him.
Yeah. Really?
No.
Seriously?
Seriously, no, I didn't.
You're ready to be for your mind to be blown? You all know indirectly who Humaydi is. You all know it. Sahih Bukhari, hadith number 1. Hadith number 1, Kitab bi-al-Wahy, the beginning of revelation. First hadith, إنما الأعمال بالنيات. حدثنا الحميدي.
Abdullah bin Zubair.
You see, you all knew who Humaydi was, you just didn't know it. Who heard from? Sufyan ibn Uyayna. Okay, so but it's not the same hadith. I'm just telling you who Humaydi is. So he has a booklet of hadith that he took. So Humaydi, rahimahullah, he has his book. So it's found in Humaydi. Okay, it's found in other books too. It's in Imam Bayhaqi puts it in his source book. There's a Sunan al-Bayhaqi. You may have never heard of it in your life. Imam al-Bayhaqi was the last of the giants of the hadith collectors. Imam al-Bayhaqi, okay? He was one of the last of the giants of the hadith collectors. After that, so there was an era when the hadith was collecting. That era is called Tadween, the era of Tadween, the collection of a hadith. And Imam al-Bayhaqi is considered to be one of the last people. After that, no more hadith narration collection. Okay, so everything that came after that is sourcing from what all of the previous scholars already sourced. You follow? So Riyadh al-Salihin, Imam Nawawi's, right? Or Mishkat al-Masabih. You must have heard of Mishkat, for example. There's other tertiary books too. So all of them, they source from all of these original sources. Okay, all right. I'm not done yet. Now, what question comes to your mind? Is this an authentic hadith or a not authentic hadith? Okay? That depends. You're like, what do you mean it depends? Yes, it depends on your methodology. Okay? And we'll understand why. That depends. Okay? Then, let's understand who are these people. So we looked at Sufyan ibn Uyayna. You understand Sufyan ibn Uyayna. I've mentioned him about 15 times already. Then we know him, so we can click on him and understand what it is. We try to look him up where there are books of biographies of men. They're called Kutub al-Rijal, the biographies of men. Who collected them? Where are those books? Okay, Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani has actually summarized all of the previous works as well. What are the previous works? Imam Bukhari has a Kitab al-Rijal. It's called Kitab al-Tarikh al-Kabir, the big history book of the men, where he collected the biographies, because his teacher, Imam Bukhari's teacher, was very good at ilm al-Rijal, the science of men. Science of men meaning the biographies, trying to find who's who. Because in order to authenticate hadith, what do you have to figure out? You have to figure out who did you hear from. If you heard this hadith from me, you want to know that I am a trustworthy person before you're gonna accept my word, right? So you have to know who's who. Okay, then we can look at Amr ibn Dinar. Okay, so first we look at Sufyan ibn Uyayna. For example, I'm just doing this right in front of you, so I'm gonna make this larger. This is just one database. Actually, this database is sourced from a whole bunch of other classical books from like 200 Hijrah, 300 Hijrah. Okay, so what does it say? He is a thiqah. What does that mean, thiqah? He's a trustworthy person. Okay, so we know Sufyan ibn Uyayna is a trustworthy person. Excellent, great. So now we go next. Amr ibn Dinar. Who's Amr ibn Dinar? Okay, let's find out who Amr ibn Dinar is. So he is also a thiqah. He is also a trustworthy person. You understand? And who was he? He was actually a mawla. He was actually the freed slave of Amr ibn As. Okay, so he's a thiqah. Okay, great. Then we look at Abu Qabus, and we'll get to Abu Qabus in a second. Okay, I'm gonna show you Abdullah Amr ibn al-As, who is a Sahabi. Obviously, he's a thiqah. He's a Sahabi. So we take Sahabi. We don't grade a Sahabi. Okay, and we'll understand why. We've talked about that already. He's a Sahaba, so that's fine, great. And then he's saying, Rasulullah ﷺ said. So if Amr ibn Abdullah, basically Ibn Amr bin al-As, saying that Rasulullah ﷺ said you can trust him because he's a Sahabi. Who's Abu Qabus? Okay, let's look at Abu Qabus. I can't find him in this English database for a reason that you will soon realize. Abu Qabus, what did the books say? Okay, so this is just online. It's just easy for you to read. So that's why I have it. I'm gonna make it larger. Hopefully you guys can read it. His name is Abu Qabus. He is an Umawi, so he's from the Umayyad dynasty. One of those people. He's not a thiqah. He's not a very highly credible person. Okay, thiqah is not just a trustworthy person, he's a very trustworthy person. Okay, so he is maqbul. Maqbul means accepted. Okay, actually that is pretty lenient. He is actually what is known as majhul al-hal. His authenticity is unsure. Okay, but different scholars gave different grades to this to Abu Qabus. Okay, there's a little that you know. He according to this website, and I think this is correct. Okay, who were his teachers? Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, clearly, because he learned it from Amr ibn al-As. He's part of the chain. Great. What is his status? So Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi, so Tirmidhi collected this hadith, right? This chain. So Tirmidhi thought something. What did Tirmidhi say? Let's look at Tirmidhi. By the way, if you look at the English translations, this whole chain, you have to know Arabic to read it. Is it in the English translation? What does the English translation say? You have no clue about the chain. You just know the name of the Sahabi. And by the way, the English translation, it's horrible. Most of it is horrible. It's incorrect. Not just horrible, it's incorrect. And for hadith that people find trouble in, like these Westerners are going to Sunnah.com and pulling hadith and they're misinterpreting them because the translations are wrong.
Could you read it, please?
No, I mean, I'm not saying this translation is wrong.
Oh.
I'm just saying in general.
In general.
Yeah. Okay, so the chain is missing. Guess what else is missing? Imam Tirmidhi's comment is not translated. What is his comment? Imam Tirmidhi said what? قال Abu Isa هذا حديث حسن صحيح. This hadith is Hasan Sahih. Okay, you may have heard of Hasan. You must have heard of Sahih. What is Hasan Sahih? We'll understand that as well. There's until today, the debate goes on. What did Imam Tirmidhi mean by Hasan Sahih? To this day. Okay. All right. What did Abu Dawud say? Because Abu Dawud also captured this hadith, right? Abu Dawud's teacher is Abu Bakr bin Abi Shayba. Okay? And Musaddad. Okay, what did he say? لم يقل مسدد مولى عبد الله بن وقال لم. Okay, so his comment, by the way, is not translated here. It's not important right now. What I'm trying to tell you, English translations has tons of things missing. You have no idea. If you want to be a good student of knowledge and you really want to dig into, like, don't have opinions without having any of this knowledge, because you're missing so much information, so much in English. There's nothing in English. Okay? All right. Great. I hope I kind of blew your mind. Okay, now let's look at the hadith grade. Okay, so what does Sunnah.com say? Sunnah.com say this is Hasan according to Darus Salam. Okay, what is Darus Salam? Okay, it's an institute in Saudi or Emarat, I think. Any one of those. I think it's Saudi. Okay, that's Hasan according to them. Hasan means good. Sahih means very good. Okay, the authenticity is very good. Hasan means it's good. What makes it good versus very good? We will learn this as well. Okay, that's Hasan according to Darus Salam. But look at the same chain. We know this is the same chain. Remember, here's it's saying Sahih according to Albani. Why is Albani saying it's Sahih and Darus Salam is saying it's Hasan? What is the difference in methodology? So you'll understand Albani's methodology is different from Darus Salam. I just told you in the chain there's this person, Abu Qabus. He's majhul al-hal. He's unknown. People don't know. So is that going to be an authentic chain? But if it's not an authentic chain, then why did Darus Salam say it's Hasan? Interesting. Okay, so the mystery continues. Okay, so and what about the content itself? Okay, what about the content itself? If the content of a hadith is disturbing to you, and you see these kinds of you just go to Sunnah.com, you just look it up once, you do a search, like I found my hadith. Here, click on it. Oh, what it is great. It's Sahih, it's Hasan, it's Da'if. If it's authentic, and the hadith that you read, and you're not a student of knowledge, you don't really understand. If you're going to read a disturbing hadith, and which can happen, it's very common nowadays, and you look at it Sahih, you're going to go, wait, what's going on here? And it's going to put doubts in your head. Without this knowledge, how are you going to know? Like what I'm about to teach you is to really calm you down, right? And help you understand where all this is coming from, because it's going to cause doubts in people's heads. Okay, and if it's da'if, you're going to go, oh yeah, it's a disturbing hadith, so it's da'if. Okay, but here, also, you can now go into a completely different angle. Right now, we've been looking at people in the chain, right? Did we talk about the content at all? We didn't talk about the content. Okay, then this is we are not going to do that in this class. But you can give a khutbah on this hadith. It's so beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying what? The merciful, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam allegedly said that Allah will show mercy on the merciful people. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is commanding, show mercy to those who are on earth, and the one in the sky is going to show mercy on you. Okay, so it's so beautiful. Mercy, 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 mercy. It's so many times repeated in this. It's so beautiful. What does mercy? You can give a whole khutbah about the importance of mercy, what the Quran says about mercy, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and authentic hadith say about mercy. You can go into the opposite meaning, which is called mafhum al-mukhalafa, which means if you don't show mercy, which means Allah will not show mercy on you. You're not eligible to receive mercy if you don't show mercy, right? You can then also understand, can you derive principles from it? Does this become the principle of the Sunnah? Remember Sunnah. Hadith is not Sunnah. Hadith is a data point to arrive at the Sunnah. We have just looked at one data point. You're following? You understand all of Sunnah from that? No, you don't. Okay. Then you can also, I skipped a part, I'll go back to it inshallah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ar-Rahimun, those who show mercy. Those who show mercy to whom? To parents, to children, to adults, to whom? To plants. It's general. So you understand the hadith, okay? There is a whole science behind understanding and interpreting the hadith. Okay, the one thing I skipped when we were talking about the hukm of the hadith. Hukm of the hadith doesn't mean it's the command of the hadith. Hukm means, is it authentic, is it not authentic, or what the classification is. Inshallah, we will go into large classification. Inshallah, Allah gives us an opportunity here shortly. So you want to look at, okay, this hadith is a little bit question mark because there is a person in there that is unknown. Okay, now if you're a student of knowledge and you're an advanced student, what are you going to do? You're going to look at, does this hadith has mutaba'at? What does mutaba'at mean? Means, okay, first you're going to see, is this hadith in the same chain without Abu Qabus? Okay, not same chain, different chain that leads up to Sufyan ibn Uyayna, or through Sufyan ibn Uyayna, or through one of the Sahabis, but without Abu Qabus. You're going to look at other chains. Are you going to find for this one? No, this is the only one. It's mufrad. It's solitary. Now you're like, okay, what do I do now? Okay, it doesn't have a mutaba'ah. Okay, it doesn't have a supporting authentic chain, the same content. Okay, then you're going to look at the Shawahid. Shawahid, what is a Shawahid? Supporting evidence, other supporting evidence. Okay, so the chain is not, you can't find a supporting chain. Can you find supporting content? Okay, if the wording was exactly the same, you would find the supporting chain. Now what do you do? What do you look for? You look for all of the hadith on rahmah. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? What did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? What does the Quran say? And it requires a lot of knowledge of hadith content. Like, how are you going to do a search when you don't even know what you're searching for? Kind of thing. You understand what I mean? To look at supporting evidences. But because you're smart, you're a good student of knowledge, you know, and there's a hadith in Bukhari where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, authentic hadith in Bukhari, unrelated to this chain, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man la yarham, la yurham." Whoever doesn't show mercy is not shown mercy. So it has the opposite meaning, but it is a supporting evidence for this, right? But then, are you smart enough to say, oh, this is a supporting evidence for this? No. So you need to be at a scholarly level to say, okay, what are the shawahid? What are the supporting evidences that support this weaker narration? So the narration is weak, but now we all know this. I don't need to teach you this, how important mercy is in Islam, right? And how important of a principle it is. So we all understand that the meaning is good. There are supporting evidences. So, and Abu Qabus is unknown, but he was a Mawla. This is the only hadith that he narrated. So if he only narrated one hadith, does it mean that the scholars rejected all of his other hadith, or he was not much of a narrator anyway? He just narrated one hadith, and this was his favorite hadith, so he just narrated it. And there's not much known about him because he was not a very significant personality. So all of those things you can look at. So you can look at the mutaba'at, you can look at the shawahid, and then you understand having the knowledge of these broader content of the hadith body for you to be even able to begin to see. And then there's other angles you can see. The language that is used in this hadith, ar-rahimuna yarhamuhumullah irhamu man fil ard yarhamukum man fis sama. Is this language style the style of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or not? Or is it some other oddball style? Because everybody has a speaking style. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a speaking style. Does it match his speaking style? Are there other hadith with a similar style where he's saying something? You understand? To kind of other supporting evidence, you understand? Okay, so we can keep going. Am I blowing your mind? Okay, this is good, right? Alhamdulillah. Okay, Then, how do you use this hadith? Is this a fiqh hadith? Is it a hadith on Tazkiyah? Can it be used for Aqeedah? Yes. Imam al-Darimi, he used this hadith to refute one of the deviant sects. We haven't talked about that. When we inshallah talked about Aqeedah, we'll talk about some of the other deviant sects more than what we talked about already. Okay? So he refutes the Jahmiyyah. Why does he bring this hadith of mercy to refute the Jahmiyyah? Oh, because the hadith says, Man fis sama, who is in the sky? Is Allah in the sky? It's an Aqeedah question. So this hadith is used in Aqeedah debates as evidence. You understand? I'm just kind of just showing you different angles, okay? And then Imam al-Dhahabi, who also wrote a booklet about the transcendence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, we say, you understand when I say transcendence? Transcendence means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above and beyond His creation. He transcends His creation, okay? So, he wrote a book about ulu, and then he brought this hadith. And then, we already spoke about this, that this hadith, can it be used as something that's a principle? Can you form should scholars be using this hadith? Let's assume that it's Hasan, and it probably is, okay? It most likely is Hasan, even though, Darussalam says Hasan, so I'm no authority, okay? I'm just telling you from my mind, but you don't quote me on this. Okay, assuming it's Hasan, and even if it's da'if means do I reject it? No. Okay, can I still use this hadith even if it's da'if? Yes. Okay, now, can I use this to derive a principle of the Sunnah? Because that's what I'm trying to do. What is my end goal? I want to derive the Sunnah. I want to figure out the Sunnah. I want to figure out my Deen. Okay? That is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanding me to show mercy. And if that command, is it a recommendation? Like if I don't do it, am I sinful? Is that a fard? You know, do I have to do it? Right? And if I don't do it even once, I'm sinful? You understand? So how do you apply that? Okay. So then if I'm a really, really good student of knowledge, before I'm going to speak anything out of my mouth, I'm going to read what did people, scholars, high esteemed scholars, the imams of our deen, they wrote commentaries on hadith. Okay, you're gonna go, okay, great, they're commentaries of the hadith in English, right? No. No commentaries of hadith in English. Oh man, what do I do now? Okay, so there's commentary of Bukhari. A few people have written it. Lots of commentaries on Abu Dawood. Lots of commentaries on Tirmidhi. Okay, so I'll show you one of the commentaries, just for kicks and giggles. Okay, right. This is by As-San'ani, Imam As-San'ani. He's a very, very highly esteemed scholar. He wrote a Tanwir Sharh al-Jami' al-Saghir. Why is it? Jami' al-Saghir is the other name for the book of Tirmidhi, Imam Tirmidhi. Sunan al-Tirmidhi is called Jami' al-Saghir. He had a Jami' al-Kabir as well. Okay, so this is Sunan al-Tirmidhi that we all know. So he has a sharh, he has a commentary on this hadith. So you will read other commentaries say before you come up with your own opinion about what the hadith is saying, okay? What are the big scholars saying about a hadith? You understand the importance of that before you have your own opinion? Okay, so you're going to read all these commentaries and you're going to understand. Just like you read the tafsir of the Quran before you have your own opinion about an ayah, you can see what are the mufassirun are saying about the ayah. Similarly, what are the hadith muhaddithun and the hadith scholars and the a'imma are saying about. So there's commentaries available, okay? And then you will then realize that this hadith is probably, in order to really understand the 360 of this hadith that we just kind of talked about just now, you're probably, as an advanced student of knowledge, as a scholar, okay, you probably have to go through 50 to 100 books just for one hadith. Okay. And if you're an intermediate student of knowledge and you have some knowledge, like I'm like barely there in there, I'll probably look at least 15 books, 20 books. And I can stand up, how easy it is for somebody to stand up on the pulpit and just utter a hadith. Okay?
Yes.
So did I just blow your mind, hopefully, inshallah?
There is hadith about Adab al-Qabr.
Yeah.
It's in Bukhari. It's a long hadith. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani took him 12 years to investigate that hadith. 12 years.
Yeah. It can easily take you, and you can draw, like, it's not charts too. So this hadith is not a good candidate. I know some of you did your homework. I don't know if you did your homework. Some of you don't look like you did your homework. Yep, that's what I thought. For you to really appreciate the science, you really have to read a little bit. So what I told you, so let's talk about the homework now, okay, a little bit, and answer those questions before we take a break, because we're going to go into the next topic. First of all, I wanted you to read the introduction to Sahih Muslim. Does every author of a book of hadith have an introduction? No. Imam Bukhari has no introduction. He has no introduction in his book. He just starts with Haddathana Humaydi, right? An Sufyan, and so on and so on. Innamal a'malu binniyat. Okay, and he put that hadith in the chapter of the beginning of Revelation. Does that hadith have anything to do with Revelation? All deeds are based on intention. Innamal a'malu binniyat has nothing to do with Revelation. Why did Imam Bukhari start with the hadith? Interesting, right? That's another interesting question. Why he put that in that chapter? But why did he start with that hadith? Okay, Imam Muslim, though, he wrote an introduction. Some other scholars, like they have written introduction, like Imam Tirmidhi, he has a introduction at the end of his book. It's called Kitab al-Ilal. Okay, the book of errors. So he's talking about errors. So it's really important for Imam Tirmidhi to also collect authentic hadith. It's very people don't know that Tirmidhi is pretty solid book to read. Okay, for authentic hadith. Okay, and you find this hadith at that. Okay, and Imam Tirmidhi rated it what? Imam Tirmidhi is unique. Most of the muhaddithun, they didn't rate their hadith. Like Imam Bukhari is just saying my book Bukhari, right? So he's not going to grade any of his hadith because according to him, everything is authentic, right? And there's a good reason why he's saying that. Imam Muslim, same thing, right? But Imam Muslim explains his methodology. He talks about why. Okay, so he writes a huge intro. I have summarized it over here, but I don't know if I want to do that with you because it might take too long. But basically, he talks about what inspired him to write this hadith. Basically, he's creating a case, first of all, before accusing somebody, how important it is that it is a command from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if you lie against me, then you find yourself a seat in the hellfire, right? So he's talking about the importance and the spread after the fitna of the Muawiyah, after death of Muawiyah, what happened to Imam Hassan and Hussein and everything like that, all of the fitna that happened at that time, a lot of hadith started to get fabricated. It was the time of tribulation. And what did Ibn Sirin say? Ibn Sirin say, the knowledge is faith, so be careful who you take your religion from, who you take your deen from. Also, there's lots of narrations like that. Also, look at this one. Ibn Sirin said what? He said, Ibn Sirin, who was another giant of his time, okay? He said, people never used to ask before, who did you hear the hadith from? They never used to ask before. But he said, after the fitna, this is his quote, authentic quote from Ibn Sirin, they would not ask about the chain of narrations. And when the fitna happened, they said, name us your men. You see? So you will hear in any hadith class you go, this is one of the first quotes you will hear from Ibn Sirin. What started the hadith authentication process? This shows you. So this was one of the reasons why I wanted you to read Imam Muslim, because it connected with the previous lecture. Now you understand why. And why that was. Because Khawarij were going somewhere else, right? And then the tribulations of the Shia to Ali, what they were going through, they were getting hammered by the Umayyi people, by the Umayyad dynasty. They were killing them, left, right, and center. So in order to protect themselves, what are some of the methods you're going to use to protect yourself? You're going to associate yourself to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam through chains and through asanid and chains, maybe fabricated even, to protect yourself. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, don't touch me, essentially, right? You understand what's going on? There's a lot of turmoil. That's just one element. Other things happening too. The ummah is expanding. There's people who are not Sahabis, nothing. They were ex-Christians or ex-Jews, and those people and pagans. Everybody is becoming Muslim now, and they're becoming Muslim when they're adults. Obviously, they come with their own baggage of what they've known previously, so they're gonna understand things differently. And for them, maybe Deen is not important. Maybe it's just in vogue. It's just, you either beat them or join them. I don't really believe, but maybe I just want to be there. So there's lots of reasons. So Muqaddimah of Sahih Muslim, and also he said, I don't want to do a lot of repetitions. So I don't know if you read the chapter on the eclipse. We will talk about that as well. Did you see a sense of repetitions there? Yeah, that's less repetitions. Actually, Imam Muslim is saying, I'm not going to repeat a hadith unless it's necessary. Imam Bukhari has a lot of repetitions. The unique hadith in Bukhari are about 3,000, 2,500, 3,000. How many total hadith are there in Bukhari? Close to 7,500 or so. It's a very large book. 7,500, but without repetition, it's about 2,500. Okay? Why did he do that? Where is the hadith? Which chapter is it in? What is Imam Bukhari's objective for his book? His objective for his book is completely different from Imam Muslim's objective for the book. Okay? I think I'm losing some of you. So that's why I wanted you to read Muqaddimah Ibn Abi Salah. And he, toward the end, I keep calling it Muqaddimah Ibn Salah, but that's a different book, but very important book, but it's also called Muqaddimah. Muqaddimah Sahih Muslim. Why did I want you to read it? Actually, the last part of it, which I didn't give you to read, talks about how Imam Muslim is saying, I'm different from Bukhari. Okay? What's my purposes? Okay. Go ahead and read it, and inshallah, some of it may make sense, some of it may not make sense. It's okay. But after this class, inshallah, not today, maybe next week's class, when you go back and read the Muqaddimah, then it'll make so much more sense, inshallah. Okay? Inshallah, that's my goal anyway. All right. And then for the eclipse thing, what I wanted you to do is several things. I wanted you to get a feel for a hadith. Okay? You probably, if you read it, you probably just read the English, which is fine. But I'm telling you now, hopefully now you realize how much you're missing out on by not knowing Arabic. That's number one. And the other thing I wanted you to see is, I don't think you did your homework, because you guys would have been asking me so many questions. How do you pray the eclipse prayer? Is it a 2 rakah prayer, or a 6 rakah prayer, or a 4 rakah prayer, or a 9 rakah prayer? All these hadiths are there. Yeah, and then, okay, so you did have that question. Okay, then there's other you probably noted in there. I don't know if you did or not.
It's like first rakah is longest. The second one is a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Third one is again.
And you understand the importance of it. And when the sun eclipsed, why was Rasulullah disturbed? And then why did he say for example, let me ask you. So why did he say that the sun and the moons are the two signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are ayat min ayatillah? They don't happen because of the death and birth of somebody. Why did he say that?
His son.
Yes. Okay, great. So the other reason why I gave you that chapter to read, and it's not a long chapter, it's about 15-20 hadith. It's a snapshot of a seerah toward the end of the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life. Okay? So it's pretty comprehensive. Imam Muslim does a very nice job organizing all of the hadith and breaking it into sections. I wanted you to appreciate that. I wanted you to see the subsections in a chapter. Okay, it's called the Book of Eclipses, but it has different sections in it, and there's a purpose behind those sections, and where does this go? And there were so many beautiful tidbits in there, just so many beautiful tidbits. And yes, go ahead.
So there was another short lecture me and my wife were several were listening
on the eclipse.
No, on Sahih Muslim. And it says that one of the things is that he picked one of the not Sahabi, one of the narrators that were, so it's Ibn Qabus.
Really?
I think that was mentioned.
Oh, okay.
It didn't mention by name, but it says that later on in Sahih Bukhari, all the other ulama have questioned that whether it's, but I think he also gave the reason why, and then also they said that those people, they were questioning the people who narrated that they are too old to narrate that, and they're probably
we'll talk about that inshallah. Yeah.
So
good.
That was something that came.
Good. So what I did was in Sahih Muslim Book of Eclipse, I looked at the Shuruh of Imam Nawawi, you know Imam Nawawi? Have Arba'un al-Nawawi, the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi. Everybody knows Imam Nawawi. He's a giant in our deen. He was he's a Shafi'i. Okay, so Shafi'i fiqh, the father of the modern Shafi'i fiqh is Imam al-Nawawi. Okay, he's a huge figure, influenced by Imam Ghazali. Okay, Imam al-Nawawi. Okay, so he has a commentary on Sahih Muslim. Okay, from his commentary, I extracted just this from you. He talks about there's two words. There's Khusuf and Kusuf. So he said there's two opinions in a Kusuf and Khusuf. They could mean the same thing, but and then he says it's Khusuf is for the lunar eclipse and Kusuf is for, one of the opinions is Kusuf is for the solar eclipse. So what happened during the time of Rasulullah? It was the solar eclipse. So it wasn't Khusuf, it was a Kusuf. Okay, all right. Then he talks about. Then he says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ صَلَاةَ الْكُسُوفِ رُوِيَتْ عَلَىٰ أَوْجِهٍ كَثِيرَةٍ. Okay, that the way to pray Salatul Kusuf, there's just a lot of different ways. There's a lot of he's saying that was the first thing he says, that there's a lot of ways to do it, and the Jamhur al-Ulama, they do it one way, which is وَمَذْهَبُ مَالِكْ وَشَافِعِي وَأَحْمَدْ وَجُمْهُرُ الْعُلَمَاء أَنَّهُ يُسَنُّ فِعْلُهَا. They say that it is a sunnah to pray the eclipse prayer. وَقَالَ الْعِرَاقِيُّونَ. Who are the Iraqiyun? Inshallah, when we'll do the fiqh class, we will understand he means actually the Hanafis. Okay? وَقَالَ الْعِرَاقِيُّونَ فُرَادًا. It is not supposed to be prayed in jama'ah. It is supposed to be prayed alone. وحجة الجمهور الأحاديث الصحيحة في مسلم وغيره. And he's saying that the strong evidence of the majority opinion, where they say it's a sunnah, it's the authentic hadith in Muslim. But Iraqiyun say it is furada. You pray alone. Okay. Then he says واختلفوا في صفتها. That they differ in its the scholars, they differ in its the way you pray it. Okay. فالمشهور في مذهب Madhab al-Shafi'i, he's a Shafi'i, okay? That's why I told you he's a Shafi'i, because he's going to talk about Shafi'i opinion, okay? So, فَالْمَشْهُورِ فِي مَذْهَبِ الشَّافِعِي. Can you guys read this along with me? Okay. And the predominant opinion in the Shafi'i is rak'atan. It is 2 rak'ahs, okay? But 2 rak'ah with 2 rukus. Okay, we'll understand. 1 rak'ah with 2 rukus. في كل ركعة قيامان. There's 2 standings in 1 rak'ah, وقراءتان, and 2 recitals, وركوعان, and 2 rukus. وأما السجود, and as for the sajda, فسجدتان, in 1 rak'ah, not 4 sajdas, just 2 sajdas. كغيرهما, just like other salahs, okay? وسواء تماد الكسوف أم لا. Okay. وبهذا قال مالك والليث وأحمد. He's talking about all of these big people, big scholars. وأبو ثور وجمهور العلماء الحجاز وغيرهم. And this is what is said by all of these people. He is providing his evidence. Okay. So this is more of a fiqh kind of a discussion. He goes into this because the book of Eclipses in Imam Muslim kind of leads to a very fiqhy discussion. Is like, what is it really? Is it really 4 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah, 6 rak'ah, 9? You know, it kind of lends itself to that kind of a discussion. Okay, I'm just giving you a taste of a sharh. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Yes?
So the only thing different is you kneel for ruku' 1 time, then you recite, then you kneel again.
You need to do your homework. You need to do your homework. You need to read the Kitab al-Kusuf. Okay, so now that he talks about what does he say? So there's many chains in that book, right? وَحُجَّةُ الْجُمْهُورِ. He's saying that the majority people, the majority of the scholars, their evidence for this, what he just described. This is the Shafi'i style of eclipse prayer. What did he say the Shafi'i style of eclipse prayer is? 2 rak'ahs. In each rak'ah there's 2 ruku's. Okay? Alright. So he said the evidence for that is Hadith of Aisha, which was the first Hadith Imam Muslim started with. Why did Imam Muslim put that as the first Hadith on that chapter? That's why. Because it is stronger. Why is that stronger? Well, it is by Aisha radiallahu anha. Okay. Then he talks about the opinions of the Iraqiyyun, he says, that they actually don't use that as a hujjah. They don't use that as an evidence. They use the other hadith of Abi Samra or bin Samra. I forget the name of the Sahabi. I have something I wanted to show you. I drew a chart last night. This is for you guys, okay? I wanted to show you the chains. This is just Hadith 901A, B, C, I think I didn't do D. This is just 901 ABC. So Aisha is narrating to make it larger. How? I don't know how. Yeah, Aisha is narrating to Urwa bin Zubair. Who's Urwa bin Zubair? And Aisha, she's Ummahatul Mu'mineen. She's supposed to be behind the hijab. Is she supposed to be teaching? Yes, she's teaching. Who's Urwa? Is he a mahram or non-mahram? Yes. He's her nephew. Yeah. Yes. This is a most of the hadith of Aisha are through Urwa ibn Zubair. So I just wanted you to realize that. This is why. Why? Because he's a mahram. So he can come in and talk to her without the hijab. Not this hijab. I'm talking about the actual hijab, meaning a curtain. Not khimar. Okay. Not what you guys are wearing. That's called khimar in classical Arabic. Okay, it's called hijab now, but it's actually called khimar in the old Arabic. Okay. So, and then these are all the chains. The dotted lines are the chains where somebody says from. Like I say, I heard from Abdul Rahim. That doesn't tell me if Abdul Rahim told me. That just says that I heard from Abdul Rahim, meaning somehow I got this information. right, from Abdurrahim. So that's a dotted line. It's not a strong line. So then there's solid line. Solid line means you are saying that Haddathani Abdurrahim. Abdurrahim told me. You understand? So those words become extremely important in the science of the hadith. We'll look at it. But I just wanted to give you an idea of these chains and the different wordings. So the first hadith was of Aisha. It says the sun eclipsed and such happened, and she describes exactly the Shafi'i style prayer, which is not just the Shafi'i style prayer, but the Hanbali style prayer and the Maliki style prayer, mind you. The only ones different are the Hanafi people. Okay. Then he brought another chain and another hadith in which there's an addition. So the addition is coming from a different chain. So Hisham, he's the son of Urwa. So Hisham is narrating to Abdullah bin Numayr is a person, and then Muawiyah, this is the same Muawiyah, by the way, radiallahu anh, okay? I think he is, who's narrating with an addition, where Rasulullah ﷺ said after he gave the khutbah, after the prayer of the eclipse, after he gave a khutbah, right? He addressed people. He told them to be charitable. There's a component in it was missing, that there was another. He then specially went to the women and spoke to the women. And why did he do that? I don't think that was much elaborated in that book, in that section. But anyways, then toward the end, he raised up his hands after the khutbah and he made a dua. And he made a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, have I conveyed the message?" Right? Have I conveyed the message? So that was an addition to the hadith of Aisha. Okay? And this is also the hadith of Aisha, by the way. This is all hadith of Aisha. Remember, 901 is hadith of Aisha. 901 A, B, C, D. Okay. And then in another narration, there's some other additions where Aisha radiallahu anha, she said that he told the people to hurry for the prayer, right? And then he had in other narrations the same thing, but then he spoke about what he saw while he was in Salah, that he saw Jannah, he saw Jahannam first, and he saw that woman who mistreated the cat, and she was being punished in Jahannam. And he also saw the man who had a crooked stick, mihjan or something, that's the Arabic word, mihjan. A crooked stick, he used to steal people's stuff with it. And then if somebody caught him, he used to say, "Oh, I have a crooked stick, so it got stuck on your thing, so let me take it off." But if people didn't realize, he would actually steal their stuff. He was actually being punished. So Rasulullah saw him in Jahannam. And then he saw Jannah, and he says, "I saw fruits." And in another narration, it says, "I saw grapes, a bunch of grapes. And I tried to pick at them, then I stopped myself. Because if I had done that, then you would be," I forget the exact phrase, I'm going to skip it, but you guys will have their full till the day of judgment, essentially. He said he stopped himself. And then there's other narrations where when he saw Jahannam, he stepped back. So he was leading the prayer, right? So he was leading the prayer, right? And then he stepped back. How far back he stepped back, it doesn't say. But it's in one of the narrations, it says he stepped back so far that they went into the women's area. So did Rasulullah go into the women's area, or did he just push the first row, and the first row pushed the second row, and the second row pushed the third row, and eventually hit the women's area? There was no barrier between, in Masjid al-Nabawi, there was no barrier between men and women. Okay, men were in the front, women were in the back. Okay, there was no barrier. So that's another thing you learned from the hadith, from them. Anyways, and then when he saw Jannah, then he moved up a little bit. He stepped forward. How much he stepped, it doesn't say. So that's when he's explaining to people, because Rasulullah told all of the Sahaba, "Pray as you see me pray." So whatever Rasulullah used to do, everybody used to do. So when he stepped back, everybody stepped back. When he stepped forward, everybody stepped forward. And then after the prayer, when he turned around, he told people, right? So those kinds of things. So I wanted you to see what I'm trying to show you here is not necessarily the story. What I'm trying to show you is how the story is being told differently by different people. And then there's Hadith Aisha, and then there's Asma bint Abi Bakr, who is the sister of Aisha radiallahu anha. Right? Abu Bakr is this Aisha, and there's Asma. So Asma is telling the story from her point of view, which is different from Aisha's point of view. So what is Asma saying? I just came in, the sun was eclipsed, and I had to go use the restroom, and I came back from the restroom, and when I came back, everybody's in prayer. I'm like, what's going on? And I came to Aisha, and I asked Aisha what's going on. She didn't know what was going on. So she asked Aisha, Aisha is in prayer. So she asked Aisha, what's everybody doing? So Aisha is pointing, right? Pointing with her head or her hand, some gestures, as to look up. It's the eclipse, right? So it's the eclipse prayer. Then she's talking from her point of view that I was about to faint, but then I saw this old lady praying this really, really long prayer, and then I was like, okay, fine. If she can do it, then I can do it, right? So the details that Asma brings, Aisha is not bringing, and some of the other sahabis are not bringing, right? And then there's other hadith in this whole chapter where another sahabi, he's saying, I was just, shooting arrows, right, hunting somewhere, and then I saw the sun eclipse, and I threw away my bow and arrow because I was suddenly got curious. Oh, the sun is eclipsed. This is the first time it has happened during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let me go see what he's doing about it. Right? He wants to learn. So he goes and he just reports what? Very brief. He just says super brief. They prayed, he led a 2 rakah prayer. End of hadith. Hanafis use that hadith as evidence that it's a 2 rakah prayer with not 2 rukus, just 1 rakah. Just regular nafil prayer. So, very brief hadith, and that's all he says, and that's Abi Samra. So, now that's one sahabi. Is he more authoritative than Aisha or Asma? Right? So methodology. Again, it comes to methodology, right? So the Jumhur, the majority, they use the opinions, not the opinions, the narrations of the major companions versus the maybe minor companions. You understand? So this is what I wanted you to get out of that homework. I hope it's making more sense now.
Because when I read a few of them, that's what was like, okay, this person is saying this.
I'm not a faqih, okay? So this stuff, that's the whole point. I wanted you to realize this stuff can get complex really quick, okay? If you ask me to understand from the hadith the proper prayer, obviously I'm not going to be able to do this. What am I going to do? I'm just going to cheat. I'm going to say, what did Imam Ibn Hanbal say? I'm a Hanbali. Same opinion as Imam Shafi. That's what they said. That's what I'm going to do. Because I have no authority over such a complex topic at all. Like, I'm going to make no judgment call. I'm going to lean on the giants, on their shoulders, and do... Are you still recording? Oh, I'm going to lean on the giants and go with their opinion. That's the whole point of the school of thought. We will inshallah talk about that. That's the whole point of following Imam Shafi'i, Imam Hanbal, Imam Malik, and Imam Abu Hanifa, because you have no authority to come up with your own opinion. You have no authority. You don't know enough. Anyway, that is just, we only read the Muslim hadith. Have you looked at the other Takhrij? Did you do for each of the hadith? Remember, we just went through. You should do, if you really are, let's say you're a mufti and you want to do fatwas, you have to go and study that hadith in all the different places, see what all of the different wordings are, see which is more authentic, see if a narrator in the middle added something that's not supposed to be there. And these are hidden defects that only very, very knowledgeable people know. So yes, it's a very complex. To derive law, that we haven't even touched that. I'm just talking about deriving Sunnah principles, right? Derived law and fiqh is super complex.
Just like Eid prayer, some
Yes.
pray with 6
That's right.
and some pray with 12. like
Exactly. So now, after reading, and that's another last thing I will say, and then I'll be quiet, inshallah. I wanted you to now, hopefully, after reading the book of Eclipse, you have appreciation for other opinions. Why are there other opinions, right? If the Eid Salah, okay, some people say, brother, why did you do so many Allahu Akbars? Why did you do 9? Why did you do 7? Why did you not do 6? It's like, that's why I'm teaching, because there's different opinions, right?
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
Like these Eid,
Yes.
normally we do like 3 takbir.
Normally we. Did you hear his language?
Yeah. Okay, everywhere the same thing, right? So this year, people ask me why they did 6 and 6. I say maybe a different opinion.
That's right. Yeah, that's the majority opinion. Yeah. So I that's what I wanted to get out of that book, the Book of Eclipse. It has a seerah snapshot. It has fiqh areas. It has these beautiful, passionate narrations of Asma saying, "Oh, it was so hard. He was standing for so long. He's read for so long, and I was about to faint." Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Right. And then these. Aisha saying this, and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam describing Jannah and Jahannam in such a beautiful way, the Jannah in a beautiful way, and the way he was saying and exhorting, and then how he gave a really passionate speech, and how moved he was. He was very disturbed by the eclipse. His son had just passed away. All of these. This is just. It was a cornucopia of just beautiful aspects in those 15 ahadith. That's what I wanted you to take out of that, inshallah. Okay, jazakumullah khair.